Hey guys and gals, Mama Bear here with a daily dash of life. And with this fine sweater weather we've been getting has come some storms. There's actually a storm going on right now. And what better thing to do than to get cozy on the couch with a big bowl of beans? Come join me as I show you how I make my beans. My favorite beans are my Uncle David's beans. And because he doesn't live close to me anymore, I miss out on his beans a lot of the time now. So I had to learn how to make beans. And he told me how he makes beans, but each person has their own individual rhythm of making stuff, so mine come out different than his. They still come out good, and I still really love his beans, and whenever I'm out of town and I see him, I cannot wait to have a big pot of his beans. I just go back for more and more and more. I just fill my big cup up of beans, especially the juice. The juice is my favorite part. Oh, so hot. So yeah, I strive to make my beans like him. Today I want to discuss with you the ingredients I'll be using when I'm making my beans. I start out with my 2 pounds of raw beans. I get my center cut bacon, which I prefer the center cut bacon because it gives me the right amount of grease that I need for my 2 pounds of beans. And I'm going to be using the bacon and the grease to put into the pot of beans. For that center cut bacon, it's going to be 12 ounces of bacon. I'm also going to have 4 jalapeno, between 4 and 6. I'm bumping it up to 6. I don't use them for heat, I seed them, but I prefer them for flavor. So that's why I'm going to bump it up to 6, just to give some more flavor. And tomato. 1 tomato, which I'm going to seed as well, and then 1 large white onion. Don't forget your cilantro. I like to put a lot of cilantro in mine, but you don't have to use a lot in yours. It's to taste, whatever you prefer. And remember when getting your cilantro, not to get parsley or Italian parsley, because that's what Papa Bear did yesterday when we were at the grocery store. So don't do that. Thankfully I was there to save the day.
Thankfully I taught you everything you know in the kitchen.
Oh gosh. Anywho, don't pay attention to him. You'll need some salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder, all to taste. When I do season my beans, I just sprinkle the top layer. When I'm done cooking my beans, I'm going to taste the juice, and then I'll go from there. See if it needs more salt or not. After I have all of my ingredients together, I'm going to grab my beans, fresh beans, and I'm going to, 1, sort them out. There's rocks sometimes in there, sometimes there's beans in there that you do not want and you can just discard. Then after I sort them all out, I'm going to wash them. I'm going to rinse them in water and give them a nice little massage because they have been so stressed out. But when you massage them, then it helps to get all that dirt off that they've been sitting in. So make sure you give them a nice little massage. And then after I sort and wash them, I'm going to soak them. Now soaking them isn't a necessary step when making beans, but I personally like it. I like it for many reasons. One is the first reason why I like to soak my beans is because I feel like they get softer sooner in the cooking process. The second reason I prefer to soak my beans prior to cooking them is because they expand. They swell as they soak up the water, which gives me an idea of where I want to fill my pot so it won't overflow. So if you could soak them for at least an hour or overnight. The third reason I like to soak my beans is because sometimes there's some leftover residue on the beans that you didn't get in the washing process. So when you soak them, that dirt seems to get off, and then when you drain them, there you go, the dirt's gone. So those are the 3 top reasons why I like to soak beforehand. And I'll be doing that whether I'm using the stovetop pot or the crock pot. Now with both, I'm going to add the water, but for the stovetop pot, I'm going to be getting the water to a boil. Once the water's nice and hot, I'm going to be adding some salt. The salt is the very first thing that I add for both. I want the salt to basically be in there as I'm heating the water. So with the crock pot, I'm gonna add the water, add the salt, and then cover the crock pot with the lid and have the crock pot set on high. Stovetop boil, crock pot on high. Then I'm going to cut up my bacon and cook that. Get some nice grease going with the bacon. Once the bacon is nice and cooked, then I'm gonna add the bacon and the grease into my pot, whether it's the stovetop pot or the crock pot. Just dump it all in there because that bacon is gonna give my beans some flavor. Now, since that I'm adding all of my bacon and the grease into the pot, it's important for me to get the center cut bacon. I've used other bacon and I just felt like it came out too greasy and I didn't like that. So get your bacon in there. Your salt and bacon is in your water so far. Then once your beans have been drained, you're going to add your beans into your pot. If you're doing a stovetop, I gradually add my ingredients, but for my crock pot, I do it all at once. Salt, then bacon, then beans, then I throw in my jalapenos, then I throw in my big chunks of onion, then I throw in my big chunks of tomato, and my cilantro, all of my seasonings all at once. Then I cover it and let it sit on high or low. If you're gonna let it sit on high, then set your timer for 3 hours. If you're sitting on low, set your timer for 6 hours and then come back to it. If you see that the water's getting low, then add some water to it. You don't want your beans to burn, and you don't want your juice to get too thick because then it's not gonna cook the way you want it to. You're gonna have a good thick bean, but you're not gonna have a charo bean. If you want a really good charo bean with a lot of bean juice, then make sure you have plenty of water in your pot, because even if you do soak those beans overnight, they're going to continue to absorb that water. And don't forget that water is also going to evaporate. So just keep that in mind. And keep either way, if you're doing crock pot or stovetop, keep the lid on, because when the lid's on the stovetop pot, that just helps cook the beans faster and they get softer because all the heat is insulated. For my stovetop pot of beans, first I'm going to add my salt, then my bacon, then my beans, and then once that's done, I'm going to throw in my onion and jalapeno right away and then let it cook for 2 hours. When those 2 hours are up, that's when I'm going to add my tomato and my cilantro. Then I'm going to let it cook for 1 more hour and then I'm going to taste it. I'm going to see if I need more salt or any of my other seasonings, and if it's good, then it's good. If not, then I add more seasoning. And then it's ready to serve. Check your beans, make sure that they're at the desired softness. Serve piping hot as charo beans or as a side dish with some Mexican rice. Video will be out soon, coming to a theater near you. Or as refried beans. The first thing I do when cooking my refried beans is to cook a batch of chorizo. When my chorizo is fully cooked, then I add my fresh beans to it and begin to mash. My family and I used to meet up in Austin for a big family New Year's slumber party. And in the morning, my Aunt Connie would get the beans that my Uncle David made, and this is how she would make her refried beans. Ever since first having the refried beans like that, I always have to make my refried beans this way. They are just so delicious and so full of flavor. Depending on the size batch of refried beans I want to make will depend on how much chorizo I will be using. Typically I use between 1 and 2 of the chorizo links that come in the Garcia brand package, and then I would say about 2 cups of the fresh beans. If you feel that your refried beans are coming out too thick, then just add some of your charo bean juice to your refried beans until you get the consistency that you want. My aunt would simply get the refried beans and smear them on a piece of bread, just a white piece of bread, and serve it like that. And it is so scrumdiddlyumptious. You can even put a little bit of cheese on top, but I like it just plain. It's so comforting and warm, perfect for this sweater weather. And if that doesn't suit your fancy, we've been having a lot of bean and cheese burritos. Can't go wrong with that. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you learned something new today that you didn't know yesterday. Toodles.
And remember, beans, they're good for your heart. The more you eat them, the more you fart. Toodles.
After I use... After I get all of my beans together... Okay, go. 3, 2, 1, action. Tell the camera how to make the beans.
That's cut.
You have to cut it?
Yes.
Okay, what do you cut? You cut the onion?
No, the onion. Cut.
That's how you cut the onion?
Yes. Cut.
And the jalapeno? And the tomato?
Cut.
And don't forget your cilantro. Say, don't forget your cilantro. Good job. This has been Mama Bear with a daily dash of life. And as always, don't forget to spice up yours. May God bless you. Thanks for watching. To subscribe, click my watermark and click any video icon for more videos or to start a playlist. Check out bonus footage at Instagram and Twitter at A Daily Dash of Life. Toodles!